Months passed, and Lisa Morgan no longer flinched at the sound of Krell claws on stone. She walked the hive corridors with ease, her boots scuffed from red dust, her silver scar glowing softly under the hive's blue lights. The Krell warriors no longer watched her with suspicion, but with something close to reverence. They called her the Echo Bearer, a title she did not ask for, but could not refuse. The queen had grown quieter. Since the night of the awakening, she spent long hours in the memory chamber, staring at the shifting symbols on the pedestal. Her mandibles clicking in patterns Lisa had learned to read as worry. One morning, as the first sun rose over 07, the queen summoned Lisa to the high chamber where the air hummed with ancient energy. The queen stood before a wall of living crystal, its surface rippling like water. Though it was solid to the touch, something stirs, the queen said, her voice low. Lisa stepped closer. What do you mean? The queen tapped the crystal with a claw. A ripple spread outward, and an image formed, not clear but flickering like a dying fire. A ship not human, not Krell, drifted through black space, its hull smooth and seamless like a single thought made metal. That is not one of ours, Lisa said. No, the queen replied. It is one of theirs, the builders. The queen nodded. The signal is faint but growing stronger. It calls from the edge of the void. Lisa's scar pulsed warm against her skin, as if answering, you must go. The queen said. Lisa turned sharply. Go where to? The source, the queen said. We have rebuilt the sky vessel from your wreckage. It is small but strong enough to carry you beyond the red belt. But I don't know how to fly it. You do not need to. The queen said. The ship will listen to the song in your blood. It will guide you. Lisa looked down at her arm. The silver light shimmered beneath her skin. She thought of Earth, of home. But that place felt like a dream. Now this hive, this queen, this purpose felt real. When do I leave now? The queen said. Time is thin. The signal will fade if we wait. Within the hour, Lisa stood at the base of the hive beneath the twin suns again. But this time she was not broken. She wore a suit woven from Krell silk lined with human tech, salvaged from the wreck. It was light strong, and warm. The queen handed her a small orb no bigger than her palm. It glowed with the same blue light as the memory chamber. This will speak for you when words fail. The queen said. Lisa took it and tucked it into her belt. Thank you, she said simply. The queen placed both claws on Lisa's shoulders, her golden eyes searching Lisa's face. Do not forget, use. I won't, Lisa said. Then she turned and walked toward the waiting ship. It rose from the sand on silent thrusters, its shape sleek and strange, half human design, half Krell instinct. The hatch opened with a soft hiss, and Lisa stepped inside. The cockpit was empty of controls. No buttons, no screens, just a smooth console that glowed when she neared it the moment her hand touched it. The ship came alive. A low hum filled the cabin, and images flooded her mind. Not words but feelings. Directions, a path through the stars. She sat, and the ship lifted off the ground without a sound. The hive grew smaller below, until it was just a dark shape against the red desert. Then it vanished. Space opened before her, vast and cold, but not empty. The silver thread inside her pulled her forward like a compass needle, finding true north days, blurred into nights marked only by the ship's gentle pulses and the slow rhythm of her own breath she ate from nutrient packs the Krell had prepared. She slept in a cradle that formed around her like a cocoon. Each time she woke, her scar glowed brighter. On the 7th cycle, the ship slowed ahead, hung a nebula, shaped like a coiled serpent, its colors shifting from violet to deep green. At its heart, a single point of light pulsed in time with Lisa's scar. The ship drifted toward it. No warning, no alarm, just calm certainty. As they entered the nebula, the walls of reality seemed to thin. Lisa saw flashes, not memories but possibilities. 1,000 versions of herself, walking 1,000 paths. Some died in the crash, some never left Earth, some became something else entirely. Then silence. The ship stopped outside. The viewport floated, a structure ancient beyond measure. It was not built, it was grown, a spiral of light and stone, curling around a core that beat like a heart. The orb in Lisa's belt flared to life and floated before her. It spoke not in words, but in song, a melody that made her bones ache and her eyes water. She opened the hatch and stepped out onto nothing, and yet she stood firm. The air smelled of rain and ozone, and something sweet like blooming night flowers. A figure waited at the base of the spiral, tall, slender, wrapped in robes that shimmered like starlight. Its face was hidden, but its presence filled Lisa with a sense of home she had never known. "You have come," the figure said, its voice neither male nor female, but both, and neither. Lisa nodded. "I heard the call." The figure stepped forward and raised a hand, not to touch but to show. In its palm swirled the same silver light that lived in Lisa's scare. "You are the first in many turns," the figure said. "The others sleep or hide or forget." "You remembered." "What am I supposed to do?" Lisa asked. "Waken them," the figure said. "The silence has lasted too long. The galaxy forgets its song. You must carry it to those who can hear." "How be being human?" the figure said. "By showing them that softness is not weakness, that hope is not foolish, that even the smallest voice can echo across time." The figure turned and gestured toward the spiral. "Within you will find what you need." Lisa walked forward, each step lighter than the last, as if gravity itself honored her passage. Inside, the spiral walls glowed with moving symbols. Not Krell, not human, but older than both. They shifted as she passed, forming words she somehow understood. Courage, trust, memory. At the center floated a sphere of pure light. It pulsed, slowly, like a sleeping heart. The figure stood beside her. "This is the seed, the last piece of the builder's will. It needs a voice." Lisa looked at her scar. Then at the sphere. She knew what to do. She reached out. The moment her fingers touched the light, the world dissolved. She saw the birth of stars, felt the death of suns, heard the cries of civilizations rising and falling like waves. She saw the builders not as gods, but as travelers weary and kind who chose to scatter their song rather than let it die. And she understood. She was not chosen because she was special. She was chosen because she was willing. When the vision ended, she stood alone in the spiral. The figure gone. The sphere now resting in her hands, warm and steady. The orb from the Queen hovered beside her, glowing brighter than before. It was time to go. She returned to the ship. But it was different now. The console responded to her thoughts. The walls hummed with the same rhythm as the setas she left the nebula. She looked back once. The spiral was already fading like a dream upon waking. But the song remained, stronger now, clearer. She set a new course, not guided by coordinates, but by feeling, by the faint echoes of other scars out there in the dark. Weeks later, her ship dropped. From warp near a quiet system, third planet from a yellow star. She recognized it instantly. Even from orbit, Earth cities glittered below. Oceans shimmered under sunlight. Clouds drifted like thoughts across a calm mind. Her heart ached. She did not land, not yet. Instead, she sent a signal, not radio, not laser, but a pulse of silver light tuned to the frequency of longing. Deep in a research lab in Colorado, a young woman named Claire Benton jerked awake from a nightmare of fire and falling. Her wrist burned. She looked down and saw a thin silver line tracing her vein. It glowed once, then faded. On a mining outpost near Titan, a boy named Danny Reyes dropped his wrench, his palm stinging. He turned it over, and there it was, a mark like a stare in. Hospital in Nairobi. A nurse named Maya Jones felt a warmth in her chest as she held a newborn. She looked at her own hand and saw the light beneath her skin. They did not understand, not yet, but they heard the song, and Lisa smiled as her ship circled the blue world, knowing she was not alone anymore. The awakening had begun. Back on Zera 7, the Queen stood on the highest spire watching the stars. She felt the shift in the song, felt the new voices joining the chorus. She clicked softly in satisfaction. The echo bearer had done her work, and the galaxy would never be silent again. The signal spread like ripples in still water, silent but strong. It reached every corner of human space and beyond, touching those who carried the hidden spark. Claire Benton in Colorado felt it strongest. She woke each night with the same dream, a silver thread pulling her toward the stars. She tried to ignore it at first, focusing on her work at the university studying ancient languages. But the mark on her wrist would glow when she spoke certain words that were not in any known human tongue. Danny Reyes on Titan stopped going to the mess hall. He said the food tasted like ash. Now he spent his hours staring at the rings of Saturn, whispering to himself in a voice that was not quite his own. The other miners thought he was losing his mind, but the mark on his palm pulsed each time he spoke, and the machines around him responded. Lights flickered, doors opened without command, tools moved on their own. Maya Jones in Nairobi began healing people with a touch. Fevers broke. Wounds closed, scars faded. She did not understand how, but the warmth in her chest guided her hands, and the silver line on her forearm shone brightest when a child smiled after days of pain. One of them knew each other, but they all heard the same. Calland Lisa Morgan heard them back from her ship orbiting Earth. She listened to the chorus growing stronger every day. She did not speak to them. Not yet. She waited for the right moment. The song needed time to root itself in their bones. Meanwhile, on Zero 7, the Queen prepared the Krell for what was coming. Scouts reported strange energy spikes across the outer rim, ships vanishing without trace, planets falling silent, not from war but from something deeper. A hush, a pause, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The Queen knew the silence was not peace, it was the calm before the storm. For the builders had not vanished without reason. They had hidden, and now something was hunting what they left behind. One evening, as Lisa drifted in low orbit, a new pulse cut through the song, sharp and cold like ice. It did not come from a human. It came from deep space beyond the Serpent Nebula, where she had found the seed. The orb at her belt dimmed, the ship's lights flickered. She felt it too, a presence vast and hungry watching. She contacted the Queen through the song, not with words but with images. The Queen understood immediately. They are awake. The Queen sent back. Are the hollow ones? The Queen replied, the ones who envied the builders, who tried to steal the song and twisted it into silence. They were sealed away. But the awakening has weakened the seals. Lisa's scar burned cold for the first time. What do I do? Protect the new voices, the Queen said. Gather them before the hollow ones find them first. Lisa changed course immediately. Her ship leapt into warp, not toward Earth but toward Colorado. She landed in a remote field under a moonless sky. The ship cloaked itself in shadow. As she stepped out, the air smelled of pine and damp soil. She walked toward the university, guided by the pull of Claire's mark. Claire was in her office late again, translating a strange tablet found in the Andes. The symbols matched the ones in her dreams. She jumped when Lisa appeared in the doorway. Who are you? Claire whispered. Lisa held up her arm. The silver scar glowed softly. I'm like you. Claire stared, then slowly rolled up her sleeve. The mark pulsed in response. You hear it too, don't you? Lisa asked. Claire nodded, tears in her eyes. It won't stop, it's not supposed to. Lisa said, it's calling you to remember. Before Claire could ask more, the lights in the building went out. Not just the power, but every light, every screen, every phone went dark, and cold. Lisa grabbed Claire's hand. We have to go now. They ran to the field. The ship rose silently as they boarded behind them. The campus remained dark, but not empty. Something moved in the shadows. Tall, thin figures with no faces, just smooth, blank surfaces where eyes should be, the hollow ones. The ship shot into the sky just as one of the figures raised a hand. A beam of black light lanced upward, but missed it on board. Claire trembled. What were those? The silence made flesh. Lisa said, they feed on forgotten songs. They want to erase us before we remember. Next, she went to Titan. Danny was easy to find. He stood alone on the outer platform, staring into the void as if waiting for her. You're her, he said before she spoke, the echo bearer. Lisa nodded. He held up his palm. The mark shone bright. I knew you'd come. They left just as the station's alarms blared, not for fire or breach, but for total system failure. Every machine went dead. The hollow ones had arrived not in ships, but through the network, slipping through data streams like ghosts. Last was Nairobi. Maya was harder to reach. The city was large, and the hollow ones had already begun their work. Hospitals went dark. Patients flatlined for no reason, then revived with blank stares. Their marks gone, erased. Lisa found Maya in a small clinic holding a baby whose eyes glowed silver. The hollow ones stood at the door but did not enter. They seemed afraid of the light coming from the chill. Lisa took Maya's hand, and the three of them vanished in a pulse of silver light, reappearing aboard the ship now. They were together, Claire the rememberer, Danny the builder, Maya the healer, and Lisa the guide. The ship carried them not to safety but to the heart of the storm. The Serpent Nebula, the spiral structure, waited, but it was damaged. Cracks ran through its light. The core beat weakly. The hollow ones had been here. We have to fix it, Lisa said. How Claire asked by, singing together. Danny replied as if he had always known. They stood in a circle around the core, each placing a hand on its surface. Their marks flared bright silver, then gold, then white. The song poured out of them, not loud but deep. A vibration that shook the nebula itself. The cracks began to close. But outside the nebula, the void darkened. Hundreds of hollow ones gathered, their form shifting, merging into a single vast shape. A mouth with no body, a hunger with no end. They will not let us finish, Lisa said. Then we finish faster, Maya said. They closed their eyes and sang, not with voices, but with their very being. The seed within Lisa bloomed, sending roots of light through each of them, connecting them to the core, to the spiral, to every mark across the galaxy. On Earth, in Colorado, in Nairobi, on Titan, and 1,000 other places, humans with silver scars raised their hands and added their voices to the song. The hollow ones screamed a sound of pure absence and rushed the nebula. But the light was too strong. The spiral exploded, not in fire but in song, a wave of pure memory rushing outward, washing over the hollow ones, not destroying them, but reminding them of what they once were before envy twisted them. They stopped, they listened, and for the first time in eons, they remembered they too had once been part of the song. The wave passed, and the hollow ones dissolved, not into nothing but into echoes, gentle and sad, drifting back into the void. No longer hunters but mourners, finally at peace inside the nebula. The spiral stood whole again, brighter than before. The 4 women stood together, exhausted but whole. It's done, Claire whispered. No, Lisa said, it's just beginning. The song was no longer hidden. It was free back on Zyra 7. The Queen felt the change. The stars themselves seemed to hum with new life. She clicked softly in approval. On Earth, people looked up and saw the night sky shimmer with silver threads connecting every star, every world, every soul. And in a quiet room in Colorado, Claire Benton opened a new notebook and began to write, not in English, not in any old language, but in the first true words of the awakened aged Annie. Reyes built a small device from scrap metal and old wires. It hummed with the same rhythm as the core. Maya Jones held a child who had never spoken, and the child laughed a sound like bell sand. Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of her ship watching it all, not as a savior but as a witness. The galaxy was remembering, and this time it would not forget. The song settled into the bones of the galaxy, not as a shout but as a breath, steady and sure. Worlds that had slept for ages stirred in their orbits. Old machines buried under sand or ice hummed back to life, not broken, but waiting their circuits. Alive with silver light, the Krell sent scouts not to hunt but to listen. And they returned with stories of human children speaking in builder tongues, of forests glowing at night, of oceans singing back to the stars. Lisa Morgan no longer flew alone. Her ship now carried Claire, Danny, and Maya not as passengers but as partners. Each day they learned more about the marks, the song, the purpose. They were not weapons. They were bridges. Each human with a scar became a node in a living network, a web of memory and hope stretching across light years. But peace is never still. On the far rim near the dead zone of Vega, 9, a mining colony, went silent. Not from attack, but from choice. The people there had heard the song and answered. But something in their response was wrong. Twisted, the silver marks on their skin burned black at the edges, and their eyes lost focus. They built strange towers from scrap metal, pointing not to the sky, but inward toward the planet's core. Lisa felt it first. A sour note in the chorus. We have to go, she said. The ship dropped from warp above Vega 9. The planet looked normal, green and blue, but the song from its surface was off, like a melody played backward. They landed near the largest tower. It pulsed with dark energy, not hollow, not empty, but corrupted. Claire touched the air and winced. It hurts. Danny scanned the structure with a device of his own making. The core is fighting itself, he said. The song is there, but it's tangled. Maya knelt and placed her hand on the soil. The ground trembled faintly. A child's voice whispered, "Help us." They entered the tower inside. Humans moved like sleepwalkers, their marks flickering between silver and black. They did not attack. They did not speak. They just stood, in circles humming a broken tune. At the center stood a woman older than the others, her eyes wide. Unblinking, her arms outstretched to a sphere of writhing shadow. He turned as they entered. "You are late," she said, her voice layered with echoes. "Who are you?" Lisa asked. "I am Elena Cruz," she said. "I heard the song first before you, before the others. I tried to make it stronger, but it wanted to be free, so I bound it." "You can't bind the song," Danny said. "It's not a thing to control." Elena laughed a dry, "Sound like cracking stone. I saved it from fading. I made it obey, but you broke it," Claire said softly. Elena's face twisted in anger. "No, I perfected it." She raised her hands, and the shadow sphere expanded, tendrils of darkness lashing out. Maya stepped forward and sang, not with her mouth but with her heart, a single pure note. The tendrils recoiled. Lisa moved fast. She reached for Elena's wrist where the mark pulsed. "Black, don't fight it," Lisa said. "Let it go." Lena screamed and tried to pull away, but the others joined. Claire held her shoulders. Danny placed his palm on the sphere. Maya kept singing. Together they unraveled the knot. The shadow did not vanish. It wept. It was not evil, just afraid, trapped by Elena's fear of loss, of silence, of being forgotten as the black faded. The true song returned, soft and sad. Elena collapsed, sobbing. "I just didn't want to be alone." "You're not alone," Lisa said. "We never were." They brought her back to the ship, and from there to the spiral and the serpent. Nebula, the core, accepted her, gently washing the corruption from her mark. Not punishing, but healing. After that they knew the song needed guardians. Not just carriers. They returned to Earth not to hide, but to teach in a quiet valley in New Mexico. They built a school not of stone or steel, but of living light, grown from seeds the Queen had sent, wrapped in krell silk. The walls shifted with the mood of the students. The floors warmed when someone was sad. The air smelled of rain when lessons were. Hard children came from all over Earth and beyond, those with marks and those without. Because the song was not just for the marked, it was for everyone who listened. Claire taught language, not just words, but the feeling behind them. She showed students how to speak to trees, to rivers, to stars, and how to hear them answer. Danny taught making, not with tools, but with intention. He guided hands to shape metal and light into things that breathed and dreamed. Maya taught healing, not just of bodies, but of memories. She helped students face old pains and turn them into strength. And Lisa taught silence, the most important lesson of all. How to sit with the unknown, how to wait for the song to rise on its own. The Queen visited once, riding a krill sky, barge that hovered like a storm cloud over the valley. She walked among the children, her claws gentle as she touched small hands, and watched human eyes light up with understanding. "You have done well," the Queen said to Lisa. "We're just beginning," Lisa replied. Meanwhile, the network grew. A boy in Tokyo woke with a silver line on his neck and began drawing maps of places he had never seen. A woman in Oslo felt warmth in her chest and started singing songs in a language no one knew, but everyone understood. A farmer in Kenya touched dry soil and it bloomed overnight. The hollow ones did not return, but their absence left a lesson. The song must never be forced, never owned, only shared. One evening, as the four women sat on the roof of the school, watching the stars, Claire spoke softly. "Do you think the builders knew this would happen?" Lisa looked at her scar. It glowed in time with the pulse of the galaxy. "I think they hoped." Danny added, "They didn't leave us a map. They left us a compass." Maya smiled, and the air around her shimmered with warmth. "We are the map now, and they were not heroes, not rulers, but reminders that even the smallest voice matters, that softness can outlast steel. That memory is the strongest force in the universe." Unzaira 7. The Queen stood once more on the highest spire, but this time she was not alone. Young Krell gathered around her, listening as she told the story of the Echo Bearer, not as myth but as truth, and far beyond, in the quiet dark between galaxies, a new signal sparked, not from a human, not from a Krell, but from something else, something small and new, waking for the first time. Its first thought, not fear but wonder. The song had found another voice, and the galaxy sang on. The school in New Mexico grew not by walls, but by whispers. Children came not because they were sent, but because they heard the call in their dreams, a soft hum in their bones that led them across cities, deserts, oceans. Some arrived alone, others with parents who did not understand but trusted the light in Their child's eyes, the building itself, changed shape, each morning, rooms blooming where lessons were needed, gardens unfolding where healing was required. The air inside smelled of old paper and warm bread and something deeper like starlight. Given form, Lisa Morgan walked the halls not as a leader but as a listener. She sat with students who struggled, not to fix them but to hear what the song was trying to say through them. Claire taught in the language wing where words floated in the air like fireflies and students caught them in their hands, learning that meaning lived not in sound but in feeling. Danny worked in the making yard, where scrap metal and broken glass turned into living sculptures that hummed lullabies at night. Maya held court in the healing grove where tears watered flowers that bloomed with memories and laughter. But not all who came were ready. One afternoon, a boy named Leo arrived. His mark was faint, barely visible on his wrist. He spoke little and flinched at sudden sounds. His eyes darted like birds in a storm. He had run away from a research facility where scientists had tried to study his mark with needles and scans, leaving him raw and afraid. Lisa found him hiding in the root cellar, curled in a corner, trembling. "It's okay," she said, sitting on the floor beside him, not too close. He looked at her scar, then at his own. "I don't want it," he whispered. "You don't have to want it," Lisa said. "It's part of you, but it doesn't own you." He was quiet for a long time, then asked, "Will it ever stop hurting?" "Not the mark," she said. "The fear, maybe." She stayed with him until his breathing slowed, until the cellar walls glowed softly in response to his calm. Over weeks, Leo began to trust. He started small, watering the memory flowers, then helping Danny sort metal scraps, then sitting with Claire as she read builder texts. Aloud, he never spoke much, but his mark grew brighter, not because he tried, but because he stopped fighting. This was the true work, not grand battles, but quiet courage. Meanwhile, the network spread further than anyone expected. A signal came from Proxima Centauri, not human, not Krill, but something new, a soft pulse like a question. Lisa took the ship alone, this time leaving the others to hold the school. She found a world covered in crystal forests. The trees chimed in the wind, each note a piece of the song, but fractured, scattered. The people there were tall and slender, with skin like polished glass. They moved slowly as if underwater, their marks not on skin but in their eyes, silver rings around black pupils. They had heard the awakening but did not understand. They thought the song was a warning, a call to hit. Lisa landed and walked into the forest barefoot. The ground sang under her feet. The glass people watched from a distance. She sat beneath the tallest tree and let her scar glow, not bright, just steady. One of them stepped forward, a woman with rings of silver in her eyes, wider than the rest. "You are not afraid," she said, her voice like wind through chimes. "It was once," Lisa said. The woman knelt and touched Lisa's arm. The moment their skin met, the forest fell silent, then erupted in harmony. Every tree, every leaf, every crystal sang as one. The woman wept tears that fell as tiny prisms scattering rainbows. "You showed us, it's safe to remember," she said. Lisa stayed for days, teaching not with words but with presence, showing them how to let the song flow, not control it, not worship it, just live with it. When she left, the crystal world pulsed with new light, its signal now clear, strong, and joyful back on Earth. The school faced its first true test. A government ship arrived, not hostile, but curious officials in crisp uniforms stepped onto the grounds, asking questions about safety, about control, about what the marks meant. Lisa met them at the gate. "We don't answer to anyone," she said gently, "but we welcome questions." They toured the school, saw children laughing while building light bridges, saw a boy with a stutter speaking builder verse without hesitation, saw Maya hold the hand of an old man whose cancer had faded like Mistone. Official, a woman named Helen Drew, pulled Lisa aside. "This isn't science," she said. "This is magic." "No," Lisa said, "it's memory. The oldest science there is." Helen looked at her own wrist unconsciously, rubbing it as if expecting a mark that wasn't there. "Can anyone hear it?" she asked. "Not everyone," Lisa said, "but everyone can learn to listen." Helen stayed longer than planned. She sat in Claire's class. She watched Danny shape a shard of glass into a bird that fluttered for a moment before dissolving into light. She cried in Maya's grove for reasons she could not name. When she left, she did not file a report. She simply said, "Leave them be." The school was safe for now, but the real challenge came from within. Leo began having nightmares, again not of needles but of silence, a vast, empty place where the song had never been. He woke screaming, the mark on his wrist cold and dark. Maya held him, but her warmth did not reach him. Danny built a small music box that played a lullaby from the core, but Leo covered his ears. Claire tried to speak the old words, but they felt hollow. Lisa knew what was happening. The boy was touching the edge of the great silence, the place before the song, the fear of nothingness. She took him to the roof that night. The stars sharp and clear. Do you know why the builders scattered their song? She asked. He shook his head. Because they were afraid, too, she said. Afraid that if they kept it all in one place it would be lost forever, so they gave it away piece by piece, hoping someone somewhere would keep it alive. Leo looked up at the sky, his eyes wide. So the silence is real? Yes, Lisa said, but so is this. She held up her arm. The scar glowed softly, reflecting in his eyes, and as long as one person remembers the song, the silence can't. Winnie took a shaky breath and for the first time reached out to touch her. Scar warmth returned to his wrist. The next morning he planted a seed in the healing grove, a tiny thing wrapped in silver thread. It sprouted by noon. Weeks later the Queen arrived, not on a sky barge but alone in a small craft. She walked the school grounds, her claws careful. On the living floors she watched human children teach Krell Scouts how to sing with their hands, how to listen with their skin. You have made something beautiful, she said to Lisa. We're just helping it grow, Lisa replied. The Queen stayed for a cycle, teaching the children Krell star maps, showing them how to read the sky not as empty space but as a story written in light. In her last night she stood with Lisa on the roof. The song is stronger than I dreamed, she said. It's just getting started, Lisa said. And she meant it, for across the galaxy new voices joined every day. A fisherman in Indonesia felt the ocean hum and answered with a song of his own. A mechanic on Mars fixed a broken rover by humming builder tones. A poet in Prague wrote verses that made streetlights bloom with silver flowers. The awakening was no longer an event, it was a way of life, and in the quiet moments between lessons, between stars, between heartbeats, the song played on, not loud, not demanding, just there, like breath, like hope, like home. Lisa looked at the sky and smiled. The galaxy was remembering, and this time it would never forget. The alien Queen stiffened when she saw my wound. You, this can be real? Beneath the twin suns of Zyra 7. The air shimmered with heat and the scent of burning metal. The human colony ship had crashed weeks ago, its hull split open like a broken seed pod. Only one survivor remained, Lisa Morgan. Her left arm wrapped in torn cloth stained dark with blood. She stumbled through the red dust toward the towering obsidian spires of the Krell hive. The only shelter left on this dying world. The Krell were not kind. They were hunters, warriors with chitinous skin and eyes that glowed like molten gold. They had watched the human ship fall. They had seen the others die one by one. They had done nothing. Now Lisa walked into their domain, not as a prisoner, but as a ghost, a thing that should not be alive. At the hive entrance, 2 Krell sentinels barred her path. Their claws flexed, their mandibles clicking in warning. Lisa did not stop. She raised her head, her eyes dry from thirst but sharp with defiance. She held up her wounded arm. The cloth fell away, revealing a deep gash that pulsed with strange light. Not red, not human, but silver, faint and steady, like a dying star. The sentinels froze. Their clicking ceased. The air grew still. From the heart of the hive a low hum began. It grew louder, deeper, until the ground itself trembled. Then she appeared, the Queen, tall and regal, her exoskeleton gleaming like polished onyx, her crown of bone curving back from her brow. She moved with slow grace, her 6 limbs poised for command. Her eyes locked onto Lisa's wound. The Queen stiffened. You, this can be real? She whispered in broken standard, the words rough but clear. Lisa swayed on her feet, exhaustion pulling at her bones, but she forced herself to speak. I don't know what you meant. The Queen stepped closer. Her scent sharp like ozone and iron that wound. She said, it sings with the old song, the song of the first one. Lisa frowned. What first ones? The Queen did not answer. Instead, she turned and gestured with a clawed hand. Follow. Lisa hesitated. But she had no choice, no water, no food, no hope outside these walls. She followed. Deep within the hive, past chambers filled with glowing eggs and silent warriors, they entered a circular room lit by floating orbs of blue light. In the center stood a pedestal carved with symbols that twisted and shifted when stared at. Too long. The Queen stopped before it. Sit. The Queen commanded. Lisa sank to her knees. The silver light from her wound flickered. The Queen knelt beside her, her clawed fingers hovering just above the injury. You are human, she said. Yet your blood carries the resonance. What resonance? Lisa asked. The Queen's eyes dimmed with something like sorrow. The resonance of the builders, the ones who shaped the stars before time had a name. They vanished long ago, leaving only echoes in stone and sky. We the Krail were their servants, once their children in a way. Then the great silence came, and we were left alone. Lisa stared at her wound. It had happened during the crash. A piece of the ship's core had pierced her skin. Not metal, but something else. Something that hummed and fused with her flesh. She thought it was poison. She thought it would kill her. But it didn't. Instead, it healed. Gave her strength. Let her walk when she should have bled out in the dusty. You are not poisoned, the Queen said, as if reading her thoughts. You are chosen. Chosen for what? To remember? The Queen said softly. The builders did not vanish. They scattered, their essence into the void, hoping it would find new vessels, new voices to carry their song. Your kind. Your fragile, soft kind was never meant to hear it, but you did. Lisa looked down at her arm. The silver light pulsed stronger now, as if answering the Queen's words. Why me? The Queen tilted her head. Because you survived the fall, because your heart still beats when it should have stopped, because the song recognized something in you, a spark, a will to live, that even we have forgotten. Lisa swallowed, her throat dry but her mind racing. So what now? The Queen rose and walked to the pedestal. She placed a claw upon the shifting symbols. The room trembled, the orbs flared, bright white light filled the chamber, and Lisa cried out as her wound burned, not with pain but with warmth. Images flooded her mind. Stars being born, galaxies folding into themselves, beings of light shaping worlds with their thoughts. Then silence, darkness, and waiting. When the light faded, Lisa gasped. Her wound was gone only. A faint silver scar remained, but she felt different, stronger, clearer. The Queen watched her. You now carry the memory not just in your blood, but in your mind. What am I supposed to do with it? Lisa asked. The Queen's voice dropped to a whisper. Teach us, remember for us, help us find the others. There are more, the Queen said, scattered across the void like seeds in the wind. Some may have found vessels like you. Some may sleep still waiting. The song must not die. Lisa stood slowly, her legs steady, her breath even. She looked at the Queen not as a monster but as a fellow lost soul. I don't know how to do this. You already are, the Queen said. You walked into our hive wounded and alone. You faced death and did not blink. That is how it begins. Lisa nodded. Then I'll try. The Queen stepped forward and placed a claw gently on Lisa's shoulder, a gesture of trust unheard of among the Krail from that day. Lisa lived among the Krail not as a prisoner, not as a guest, but as something new. A bridge between species, a keeper of the old song. She taught them human words, and they taught her the ways of the hive. She learned to read the star maps etched into their walls, and they learned to see hope in a human's eyes. Weeks turned to months. The scar on her arm never faded. It glowed faintly in the dark, a beacon, a promise. One evening, as the twin suns set, painting the sky in violet and crimson, Lisa stood on the highest spire of the hive, looking out at the endless desert below. The Queen joined her, silent for a long moment. Do you miss your world? The Queen asked. Lisa thought of Earth, the oceans, the trees, the sound of rain, something she had not heard in years. Yes, she said, but my world is here now. The Queen made a soft clicking sound, almost like a sigh. Good. They stood together as the stars emerged one by one, each a possible home, each a possible echo of the song. Lisa closed her eyes and listened, not with her ears but with something deeper. The silver thread inside her hummed in response, a quiet melody older than time. She was no longer just Lisa Morgan, survivor of a crash. She was the voice of the builders, the memory of the lost, the hope of the forgotten, and somewhere far beyond the edge of known space. Another scar pulsed in the dark. Another human opened their eyes and heard the song begin again.